Just 1 week ago, Bitcoin crashed to $25,000. It has not been that low since late 2020. We've also seen an extreme record on the crypto fear and greed index, 12 straight days at levels below 15. This has only happened one other time in history since the crypto fear and greed index started its records. Now, is this low in trouble that was just set a week ago? Let's take a look at that on the charts and where we see critical price support. If that breaks, we're in trouble. And then, of course, the critical bull targets in case we are invalidated and we get the bulls come back to the market to help Bitcoin survive yet another bear market. Our regular viewers know we have stuck by this thesis since December of 2021. Markets have been heading down. All the while, there's been a ton of bulls and hopium while perma bears are trying to pump the market back up. These guys, unfortunately, are getting their followers and subscribers and viewers absolutely wrecked on the way down. Let's stay the course, follow the facts on the charts, of course, just continuing to look at the price and how that pattern is playing out on the charts. Make sure you've smashed that subscribe button and hit that bell notification icon so that you're updated with the content on Bitcoin and crypto here on the channel. And of course, I cover a lot of stuff to do with investing and the economic market cycle. Subscribe, like, let's crack on with the video. The Investor Accelerator is running an exclusive giveaway with Bybit. Your chance to win half an ETH, so the total prize pool is 2 ETH, over $4,000 at this point in time, using the link in the video description. Sign up with Bybit, deposit at least $10, and you go in the draw to win yourself half an ETH. It's exclusive to the channel, so the chances are much higher. All right, the first chart I want to have a look at is NASDAQ. Now, these have been the target levels that we've been focusing on for many, many weeks, even months now. We had the double top come in on the NASDAQ, and we have dropped beautifully to our 50% level. The reason I bring this up is for the overall market. Are we getting a bounce? Are we getting support with the traditional markets? And how is that affecting Bitcoin? Is the bottom in trouble? We'll get some signals from the NASDAQ and the S&P. So we've dropped down to 11,700. The next target down is about the 11,000 even. So 10,900, about 11,000. The danger level for me on the NASDAQ would be below 9,000 points. Now we're a long way from that at this point in time, but so far these targets have been working out very, very well. The 50% level was a little bit of support and resistance just a month ago. The 100% level, we crashed nice cleanly through, which means we had to go towards the 150% level, which is the target of our double top. 150% lined up quite nicely with the major 50%. So these are all targets in terms of a short trade if someone was taking this on the NASDAQ. But in terms of giving us an idea of the strength and weakness and where we could expect some potential support and then a reversal, this tends to be a really good area, the 50% and then an extension of the double top range, which is around that 150. So like we've been seeing, 11,700 to about 12,000. These are the levels that I've been talking about for many, many weeks. You guys know that on the channel. We've seen a bounce at this point in time. So we had the bounce last week and now we're up. That's why we're potentially getting that reversal. S&P, similar sort of thing. It broke through its shorter 50% level. So it's this shorter range here. Should we move this back to the lows, then we come out. This is the COVID crash low. Then we come out at 3,500 points. So we've already got one of those on there. 3,500, some nice hot tops. We're still seeing some downside, but I think this is going to come later in the year. The point here is we want to look at, is this current low in trouble? So to the daily on the S&P, before we get to Bitcoin, you can see we had a little bounce here and we've come right back down. The fear and greed is the next thing to have a look at because we've seen a lot of fear in the market, yet this low is still intact. The 12th of May, that's going to be a key level here. In terms of Bitcoin, it is also the 12th of May. And Bitcoin's holding up a little stronger than the traditional market. So the low here to today's price is about 13% from the low. Whereas for our traditional markets, for the S&P 500, the low to that low, only 1.3%. So Bitcoin's essentially 10 times higher than it. But of course, there's a lot more leverage in the S&P. So not to get too confusing here, we're still holding above our lows. That's a good sign for now. Bitcoin's still holding above that at the moment. We've got more to look at with Bitcoin in terms of some key levels in case this does break down and we're invalidated. But first, the fear and greed index reading at 13. Of course, we saw 12 was yesterday. We had some extremely low levels of 8 just a couple of days ago, and then also 9. So we've seen some single digits in the last week. 17th of May, we saw 8. And we also saw 9 on the 14th of May. So this essentially has brought us to buying Bitcoin at every single point that we were 15 or under. And remember, this is looking at our fear and greed plan. So our fear and greed plan is now at its 29th purchase. And all we're doing here is buying Bitcoin at 15 or under. These have proven to be pretty amazing times in the past. Of course, it hasn't called the exact low on every time that we've been 15 or under on the fear and greed. However, 10 and under has been relatively good too. There is one occasion here in August where 10 and under was actually pretty high. It wasn't the low. This was August 2019, and then we had that major COVID crash come in 2020, March of 2020. So still, there's no exact holy grail, but the beauty about this is that it's so mechanical, and you can, if you want, take the emotion out of the market. There's so much fear and, of course, greed in the market as well. But in terms of buying Bitcoin at some low prices, let's take a look at the 15 and under. We got 10 here, 10 again in November of 2018 that led over into December of 2018, and that was at that final crash into that final low. However, February wasn't the final crash. It was basically the crash from the high, and then we got that bounce back. Moving forward into August of 2019, that again was not at the low, but it had the major low here in March. So another fantastic opportunity. Now, there were a few more times to be buying Bitcoin, and that's why I tend to stick to 15 or under when it comes to this plan here, 15 or under, because any other reading above that tends to be a little too high. If you're reading at 16 or 20 above, it can be a little bit too high to be getting into Bitcoin. Now let's fill out the rest of this plan by adding in the opening price of these days that were under that 15 and have a look at what our average price is now, what we can do moving forward, and is this low in trouble? If you want to follow along with the fear and greed plan, and of course our trading, and learn more about investing overall, I've left a link in the top of the video description to the Investor Accelerator. Our Patreon group is there. Nice, easy way to get into the market and update on a weekly basis with our weekly group calls for Q&A. So check out that link in the top of the video description. So the opening prices on the 18th are 30,412. So we're throwing here 30,412. We've also got the 19th, which is today, and that price on the open is one of our lowest so far, 28,672. So 28,672. That gives us an average price now of 33,484. It's now 13.8% down because the price is underneath these levels. But of course, this can take years. If we get a further drop in the Bitcoin price, if this low is eventually taken out, then we're probably looking towards those low 20s to possibly high teens. Which leads me to the question, is this low in trouble? So far, even on a short-term time frame, on a 4-hour chart, even on the hourly chart here, we're still holding above our 50% level. So 28,400. You can see it's from our bounce low, which is on the 12th. Almost, if this does break down, you could call it a dead cat bounce. But for now, we've got a top in at 31,400. Halfway is at 28,400. You can see how well these 50% levels have been working. So at the moment, the market is just coming down to this level, just holding up. You can see the 18th and the last 4 bars are basically just trying to hold its ground here to see whether the buyers are coming back in at this level or we get the breakdown. The critical level for me is watching beneath these lows, and of course the 50% level, but these lows as well. It came in on the 12th and then again on the 13th, and I've just got that as a round number of around $28,000 because it lines up pretty well with the 50%. You can see a lot of the market didn't want to stay below 28,000 for too long. We had one bar that closed underneath it in the 4 hours, and then the rest of the time the market has been above $28,000. So I see the market as being quite weak if we drop below 28,000, and that would probably then spell another retest of these lows. The price to hold up is 25,400 on the Bitstamp chart. So is the low in trouble? Not yet. Not yet. It's looking okay because the 50% level is there. The $28,000 psychological low level is also there. And ideally, we just want to see this thing hold up and then move back above to the upside. I also like the fact that the extreme fear is still in the market, yet the price is not testing 25K at the moment. It's still a solid 11 to 12% away from the low. So the fact that we're seeing the same extreme fear, yet the price is a little higher, is a little supportive at this point in time. Of course, it's still early days, very, very early days, but at the moment, this is what it's going to take in the market in order to hold it up and then flip back to fear and then neutral as we go to test some of these upper prices. Now, longer term, weeks to months, it's not the longest term, but weeks to months, I think we're probably going to come up and test these high prices, 32, 34. I still think this is relatively weak overall. A close above 40 is going to get me a lot more bullish, but even these low to mid 30s isn't really that extreme, but you could start to reduce your average price on Bitcoin down if you wanted to sell at some of these higher prices. Now, it's not a recommendation to sell, but I did make a video a couple of days ago looking specifically at how to mechanically get out of the market, or at least reduce the average price of the asset that you're purchasing. So I'll leave a link to that at the end of this video so you can go through it step by step. The thing we've come here for is this low in trouble? And for now, I don't think so. However, if we get the breakdown, like you can see where my alert is, at 28,000, I think we could be in for some trouble of that low. But broadly speaking, we have been down for many, many weeks at this point in time. So let's have a look at the weekly chart. We've been down for about 6 in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not counting this bar because we had a higher high, even though it is red. I'm going for 6 straight weeks down with lower highs. This one's a little higher, but lower lows as well. That's the key here. I want to see a lot of the trend being down because that was still the uptrend. 6 weeks. How long could this last? I've talked about weeks to months that will be above this low, should this be the low. The reason I'm saying that is we've been down 6 weeks. Should we get another 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks the way back up, then we might take that similar sort of time to come back down. We look at 50% on the price axis, and we also look at 50% on the time axis. So 6 weeks, almost into our 7th. If we look for a halfway point of that, we're looking at about 3 to 4 weeks up. Now, we've done this on the channel over the course of the bull market, looking specifically at Ethereum, and that has worked out extremely well. So this happens time and time again. So let's measure from the top to the bottom. 6 bars. Should we get another week down here, even if it's not a lower low, we still had a lower high, about 7 bars. So roughly speaking, if we go 50% up, that's going to give us about 4 bars. It's going to come out in early June for a potential peak, testing some of these highs here. Maybe we bounce 40 or 50% like we've done in the past, and that sets us up quite nicely at about 38K. So it still has to get past 32 and 34, but looking at around $34 to $38,000 in over the next 3, 4, 5 weeks. We get a rejection, then we're probably going to come back down and test these levels again. That brings us out into June. Then maybe we start to see another low between July and September, which is what I've been looking for since talking about it in December. Another significant low in around Q3. So there's still lots on the cards. I can be wrong, and that's why we look towards some of these key areas of buying Bitcoin. And like we've seen in the last 12 days, that there's been a signal every day looking at the fear and greed plan to be buying at these lows, and not so much on the lows of February or January or early January or late November, early December. I'm bringing up all these dates because essentially all you'd hear from other influencers is basically buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. And you would absolutely run out of money, and you'd have a high average price rather than sitting with something that is in an extreme fear zone and waiting for much better opportunities. Even if this does go lower to high teens or low 20s, it's going to be a much better average price than buying all of the dips all the way down and then waiting for it. And for some safety and security in terms of how far this can go down, let's just take a quick measure of where we currently are to the lows of around $20,000. It's about a 30% drop from where we are. And then if it got into the teens, call it 12, 13, 14, somewhere around that 13K in the middle, is still another 55% drop from our current price. So the idea here is to not necessarily buy the exact low, but like we've seen in the past with Bitcoin, we can get some of the lows and buy it on extreme fear, like we've seen with February on the fear and greed plan, and also see that the market can still drop another 50 to 60% to its final low, but it's still much, much better than buying at those absolute peaks or any of the dips on the way down. The Bitcoin low will be in trouble if we break down from $28,000 relatively quickly and soon. I think there is still some energy, some moon boy hopium left in the tank until we bounce from these levels and possibly get up to those low to mid $30,000 levels. But I think it's going to be tough going over the course of the next few months for Bitcoin. Of course, I can always be wrong, which is why I have the contingency plans to be buying Bitcoin at extreme fear times, knowing full well that the downside could still be 50 to 60% away from these current prices. In the meantime, if you want to join us for our weekly group calls, our portfolio updates, and more on investing, a link to the Investor Accelerator Lite is in the top of the video description. Check you out over there. Otherwise, you've also got the Bybit link with your chance to win half an ETH. Total value prize pool is 2 ETH, so it's going out to 4 lucky winners exclusive to this channel and my brother's channel, Michael Pizzino. Link also in the description. Thanks for your support, and I hope you've been navigating these markets extremely well and following the journey here on the channel with this Bitcoin and cryptocurrency bear market. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys at the next video. Until then, have more fun to get more done.